Hello everyone, this is Horror Holly. I am Holly and these are the horrors that keep us awake at night. Today's case is the Moreno Valley Poltergeist one. It takes place in Wow. Today I will be talking about the Moreno Valley case, which takes place in Southern California, where Susan and her daughter Jamie move into a new home along with Susan's new boyfriend and his daughter Marie. It's a new family unit, everyone's getting along great, everyone's gelling really well. It's like this new blended family, and the two daughters are getting along. Susan and her boyfriend Matt are doing just fine, and they have a big enough house which also has a nice swimming pool in the back garden where they could spend their time together as a family. One of the days they are all outside in the garden spending time together, playing in and around their swimming pool, and at some point Susan gets up and goes to the kitchen of the house, and as she is pottering around in the kitchen she notices that there's a peanut butter jar that has been spilt all over the kitchen worktop. The lid's off and it's on its side, and it's as if it's kind of melting on the worktop and all down the side onto the floor. And as us mums do, a pain in the backside, she calls in her daughter Jamie and asks, "Did you do this? Did you leave the peanut butter out?" Jamie's like, "No, not at all. That's not me. I have not done that." She kind of laughs it off and shrugs it off. And so Susan calls Marie in, Matt's daughter, and says, "Did you do this? Did you leave the peanut butter out?" And again, Marie says, "Nope, that was not me. I have not been in here. I've not touched the peanut butter." And even though Susan took note of the fact that it wasn't actually really hot enough for the peanut butter to melt like that, she just accepted that it was probably one of the girls, it might have been Matt, and they've just left it out and it's just spilled out of the side, and it's just a simple accident. So they go outside back to having a great time together by the pool, spending time in the garden, and when they come back in all together, the house has been absolutely ransacked. There's cans lined up each of the steps trailing up to the top of the stairs. There's cleaning product bottles that have been taken out from under the sink and they are now lined up along the kitchen floor. There's stuff pushed into the oven and the microwave, like stuffed toys and little appliances and things like that. Everything out of the kitchen cupboards is out. Stuff from the girls' bedroom is all over the house, and there's like what looks like sauce that has been squirted and sprayed everywhere, all over the walls, all up on the ceiling. It's just an absolute mess. So when they go in and see this, instead of kind of thinking of it rationally, that the house has just been ransacked, do we check if anything's missing? Do we call the police? They just immediately start blaming each other. Susan and Jamie start saying, "It must have been you. You've done this." Susan starts to blame Matt's daughter for it, and Matt blames Susan's daughter for it. And they get into a bit of a tiff that it must have been one of each other, but no one's actually owning up and accepting the blame for what's happened, like it's just a meaningless prank or something. And they fight about it for a while, and then they just go about cleaning it all up. They put everything back in order, put all the cans back and the cleaning products back, and scrub all the marks off the wall and the ceiling. Around a week passes and everyone just, they've kind of forgot about what happened that night. They've kind of continued with life and, forgot about what's happened. The girls are in their bedroom, both in their bedroom, and Jamie walks in with a cup of coffee that she pops down on her desk while she nips out to the toilet and then to come back to the bedroom. So she pops it on her desk, she goes to the bathroom, and then when she comes back and she walks in, the coffee has been thrown all over her bed. There's coffee everywhere. It's made an absolute mess. It's wrecked her bedding, and she kind of straight away jumps to blaming Marie, who is sat in the bedroom doing her homework, and she's like, "What the hell? What on earth? Why have you done this? And of course Marie's like, I didn't do anything. That is not me. I have not done that. I've literally not moved. So they have a bit of a tiff. Marie is adamant that it was not her. Jamie is adamant that she must have done it. And she leaves the bedroom to go and get a bottle of bleach to, you know, clean up all the mess that's made and gather all her bed sheets up to change them. She comes in, pops the bleach on her dresser, and it's just sitting on the top of her dress, which the drawers are kind of half open. And as she turns to pick up the coffee cup and put it back on the side, she turns to pick up the coffee cup, pop it on the side, and as she goes to grab the bleach, the lid has been taken off and it's now flat on its side, pouring all over her dresser, all over the clothes that are in her dresser, and destroying all of her clothes. And in shock, she sees that this is happening, looks at Marie, who has not moved. She's still sitting with her homework. She knows that it couldn't have been her, and so she just begins to scream. She is terrified. She's kind of scared. How could this have happened and what could have made it happen? So she begins to scream, and Susan comes running in the room after hearing the commotion, and he's like, what is going on? And the girls just cannot explain it. It wasn't Jamie, it wasn't Marie, and they both know in themselves now something weird is happening here. They're trying to explain what's happened, but they actually don't have an explanation for how or why. And as they're standing there discussing it and scared, a picture frame from the bedroom wall falls and crashes to the ground, which of course startles them, and they look over in shock. And then another one from the opposite wall also falls and crashes to the ground. They all scream, they run out of the house, they get in the car and drive away, and they all now know that something weird is happening inside that house. It's not the fairy tale house that they had moved into, and so they once believed that this had to have been each other, and now they know that it's definitely not. There's no way that anyone is pulling pranks on each other or creating this mess and doing all these things. So at some point they drive home, they go back to the house. Matt is still at work, he hasn't come home from work yet, and as they walk in again to the house has been absolutely destroyed. There is stuff everywhere, there's sauce all over the walls, the ceiling, again the stuff being stuffed into appliances. So they now realise it's not each other and something weird is happening within the house. And once Matt comes home, he is greeted by the three girls who are besides themselves. They're trying to explain the events that had happened earlier, that they are all equally terrified. They know that it's not each other, and they know that something a bit more sinister is going on. There's something within the house that is haunting. Instead of believing them, Matt just assumes that they are now all in on it together. He does not believe anything they're saying. He thinks that Susan is now in on it, and this whole argument and fight erupts from the fact that the three of them have all seen this for themselves. Susan now knows that it's not the girls. She has witnessed and experienced it herself, and Matt will not believe her. He won't believe his own daughter. He won't believe Susan's daughter. And so they just argue. They all go to bed upset with each other. So even though he doesn't believe them, that night all the power would go off in the house, and all they would hear is doors slamming and banging all night long, and their stove ignition light clicking constantly. But they're just in denial and blaming each other, and so they don't really confront it head on or rationally. They don't contact the police after these intrusions. And although Matt doesn't believe what the girls are saying, Susan is now under the assumption that the house could be haunted. There's something in that house that really does not want them there. So she confides in her friend, explains what's been going on and what's been happening. So as Susan is confiding in her friend and telling her what's been going on in the house, her friend tells her that she should show that she wants to coexist and live in peace, and they're happy to live there, and that's exactly what she thinks is the best thing to do. So when she goes home that night, she grabs the girls and takes the opportunity, with Matt still being at work, given that he doesn't believe, to hold like a little peace offering ceremony where she lights candles and she pops a little cat figurine. She loved little cat figurine. So she offered the house this cat figurine that she placed in the middle of the table, and kind of sat around the table with the girls and said how this was their peace offering, please accept it, we just want to live in peace and we mean no harm. And nothing was really happening, but at that point Matt walks in from work into the home and immediately sees the girls, and given that there is these candles, and he kind of reads the situation and understands straight away what exactly is going on, and he's furious. He's not feeding into this, they should not be feeding into this, and so he goes over and he's like, absolutely not, you are not doing this, nothing is going on, we are not feeding into this. So he grabs the cat figurine from the middle of the table, and the girls are kind of pleading with him, begging him, you know, not to make it worse, and he takes it into the garden and throws it across the garden. And they have this bit of they have this where the girls are hysterical and they think he's going to make it worse, and they all walk back into the house, and as they do, sitting on the table is another similar cat figurine in the middle of that table again, and they know that Matt has just gone and threw one halfway across the garden. So he goes over again, grabs this one, throws it on the ground, smashing it, and the girls are terrified. They think that his actions have now just made this 1,000 times worse, and they are worried about what's going to happen next. So they are all fighting, they are all arguing, they go to bed, and they're kind of avoiding each other because Matt's still thinking that the girls are conjuring up this, you know, this activity, and now he feels like Susan is completely in on it too. She's fed into this haunting of the house, and again, they don't think that, you know, there's somebody rather than something actually destroying their house, ransacking their house and turning it upside down. And while they're all in bed that night, Jamie wakes up in the middle of the night and she goes downstairs for a snack or a drink or something. And as she gets down there, she sees that the word cat has been wrote all over the walls and scratched all over the wall, and she is scared. She calls out to Susan, Matt and Marie. They all come downstairs, they all see this for themselves firsthand. They're not accepting this. They're all living in this kind of denial that the house could be haunted or something like that, and so they just continue to fight and fall out, and it really drives a wedge in between the whole family. And Susan and the girls are actually blaming Matt for his actions with their little peace offering, and they believe that it's his fault. You know, he did this, there's cat been written all over the walls, and so whatever this is super mad, and it's all Matt's fault. And there's this huge mess all over the house again, the same as what's happened before, and they're all there together cleaning up this mess. And as they kind of move things around in the kitchen and are putting everything back, underneath something on the ground there is like this absolutely huge footprint on the floor, and there is a photograph of this, and Matt's foot is next to it, and it's a good 3 inches bigger than his shoe size. They do take pictures and kind of document everything as they're going along. A lot of those pictures and videos are available online, and they're taking pictures of everything that's happening but not actually reaching out to do anything about it at this point. So everyone is fighting, you know, they go back to bed, everyone's avoiding each other, and one night Marie is home alone. She doesn't really want to be. They don't really want to be home alone, the girls, but she would only be home alone for a few hours. And she sat in the living room watching TV, and as she's watching TV, it starts to flick on and off. It keeps turning off and back on again, and she's a bit spooked. Then the TV just turns off. She reaches across the table to grab the remote just to turn it back on, and the remote flings off the table onto the floor, so something pretty bad is about to happen. And as she sat there, the rocking chair in the corner of the room starts to just rock backwards and forwards by itself. Nobody sat in it, and she's kind of staring at this rocking chair, and as she does, all of the picture frames that are hung up on the wall crash to the floor. So in her moment of absolute terror, because they have been documenting and taking pictures and videos of what's been going on, she just reaches across, grabs her camera, starts just taking pictures around the room. And again, they are available to view online, and there is some pretty weird like lights. I wouldn't even say lights, it's just these weird these weird things across the pictures that she's taken, and they're kind of like in these wave pattern. So she is terrified and calls for her family. They all come home. She is hysterical, and they all sit together and view these pictures together. And at this point, as Matt is looking at these pictures, he then believes that this is no prank. Something is actually really wrong about what's going on in the house and what has been going on in the house for a few weeks now. So he doesn't really know what to do. I mean, he wants to do something about it. He wants to try and find a solution to the situation, and the only thing he can come up with is that we must have to phone the church if this is a haunted situation. So he's phoning around different churches, and he gets in touch with a pastor who can only really offer to come and sit with them and pray, but that's all they can do. They can't really do anything else about the situation. Then after this event, one of the evenings, Jamie is home alone. She's just in her bedroom. Of course, they all realise what's happening in the house now. They're all on edge, they're all scared, but she is in her bedroom with the door shut, probably feeling like it's the safest place for her to be. And as she is sat there, she begins to hear this god-awful pounding, really, really loud, really terrifying, on her bedroom door from the outside of her door. And she just begins to cry. She's just sat on her bed. She begins to record what's happening, and the video is so chilling. You can hear the pounding on the door, you can hear her sobbing, and it is really, really loud. She kind of musters up the courage that she has to open the door. She just has to open up the door and see what's on the other side. And as she goes over and reaches for the door handle, the pounding just stops. There's no more noise. It falls quiet, and she would just go back to her bed and curl up on her bed and cry, where she would just absolutely sob, and the pounding would then start again. So she goes over, she grabs the door handle, and she knows she has to escape this nightmare. She has to get out of the house. And as she opens the bedroom door, she sees that there's like these holes and like gouges in the door. Like there's a really big chunk of the door from the outside that's just been caved in, and the door handle from the outside has been bent all the way down. And as she's looking down at this, she notices that on the floor there's all these pots and pans, saucepans and things, cutlery and knives that are all just piled outside her bedroom door, as if someone had using them to like bang against her door and try and get in. And then across from her bedroom there is the bathroom, and the handle was kind of broken off, and you could see through into the bathroom from this little hole, and the light in the bathroom was flickering on and off. You could see this light coming out, and she is convinced that whatever this is now in the bathroom, and she has to trap it. She has to find a way to kind of keep it in there. So she grabs string from her bedroom and ties it around where the door handle would be and pulls the door shut. And she's like leaning back, holding onto the string. And as she's pulling, she can feel something pulling back, as if someone is trying to open the door as she's trying to hold it shut. And with the force of this kind of tug and pull, the string snaps and she falls back into her bedroom. Bathroom door just starts to open. And as it starts to open, her bedroom door slams shut in front of her. As she's inside the bedroom on the floor, she hears the rustling again and the clinging of the pots and pans outside of her bedroom on the floor. And she grabs hold of the handle, and she can see smoke is seeping into her bedroom from underneath the door, at the bottom of the door. And she pulls open the door, and down in front of her is a frying pan with a toilet roll in the middle of it, and it's on fire. It's been lit on fire. So she grabs her sweater and tries to like smother the fire to put it out. And all around the house, like all along the hallway, there's toilet paper just being strewn and through everywhere. And it leads right through into the living room. There's all this toilet paper just hanging everywhere. So, I mean, if she didn't have the courage to open the door and put the fire out, it would have just set all of that on fire, and she would have been trapped inside. So she knows that she has to get out of that house there and then. Like, it's not a wait it out and see situation for her life, for her safety. She has to get out of that house. So she heads down the hallway. She's trying to, you know, get out towards the front door, pulling all this toilet paper down as she does. And she gets outside, she leaves the house, she sits down on the steps totally defeated. and she stays there until her family come home. They all come home together. They see her on the front steps of the house and listen to what's happened. She explains what's happened. They obviously see the state of the house and they pack up there and then and leave. They do not spend another night in that house. They leave and sell the house, and Susan would have to go bankrupt just to be able to leave and be free of what was happening. So Susan and her family are now free of the house, and shortly after they left and sold their house, put their house up for sale, their neighbours actually did exactly the same thing. Their house went up for sale, and shortly after that 5 of the neighbours from there also put their houses up for sale, although none of them actually sold, and I guess only they know why. So what do you think? Are poltergeists real? Are ghosts real? I think in this case, is there any other explanation? But that is the end of this case, and I hope to see you in the next one. Wow.